and events to track ahead. So let's kick off the day's market action with a couple of updates coming through. There were moderate cuts that we saw on the index today, so there was a bit of a negative bias. But the positive that we saw today is that the dips got bought in late trade, and there was a bit of a recovery that we saw in late trade as well. So we ended with minor cuts of around 76 odd points. Pharma stocks were the biggest gainers today. Lupin, Glenmark Pharma, Aurobindo Pharma, Cipla, all hitting fresh 52-week highs today, while auto stocks were the losers in trade. So you had Eicher Motors, M&M that were down almost about 3 to 4 odd %. The other space that was under pressure was the Bank Nifty, down almost 1% today. So that was a bit of a pressure pocket for the market. And in the broader market, stocks like Lemon Tree gained a bit, about 9% higher after Motilal Oswal report, where it was one of the top picks for 2024. So all in all, you'd have to say consolidation mode for the market. A little bit of profit taking is what we saw, but nothing too alarming.
Well, that's right. The Nifty basically was dragged down by its top, performer, the top batsman, so to call it. The Nifty Bank was under pressure. It didn't give Nifty much of a chance. Even when the Nifty recovered, in fact, the Nifty Bank didn't really recover. A couple of underwhelming Q3 updates. That's what's spooking the street a little bit. The auto names did it yesterday. You had Ultratech Cement that did it today as well. The last quarterly performance wasn't too great. And that's a little bit worrying on that front, because you're talking about the leader of the market that's underperforming. You had APL Apollo Tubes as well, another leader from their segment. They as well disappointed. So both those two stocks will lower. That's what, SARS sentiment a little bit. Pharma stocks, though, they were the stars in today's trading session. Big outperformance is what we saw out there. And the metal names, particularly if you have the combination of PSU and mining, well, those stocks did well. Namely, you had Coal India, operational update looked quite good. NMDC operational update we had, but the increasing prices. Nalco intraday as well did see some bit of buying. So that PSU mining theme continues to play out. And by the end of it, if you pull up the advanced decline ratio, well, the number of stocks that were declining, they outnumbered the number of stocks that were advancing. At one point of time, towards the end of the session, you had a few number of stocks that were advancing in comparison to declining. But by the end of it, the breadth was in favor of the bears. But let's run you through what we have lined up on the show for you today. We start off with the top movers of the day. Hormuz will be joining to tell us that. The sector of the day was pharma. Ekta Batra will be joining in to tell us the key reasons why the sector was higher in today's session. And CNBC-TV18's popular segment, D Street Chatter, is also on the show. Nimesh will be joining in to tell us why Birla Soft was buzzing in today's trade. And last but not the least, we delve into the key market events to watch out for tomorrow's trading session.
All right, well, on to our first segment of the day then. Hormuz is joining in right now from the newsroom with all the top stock movers of the day. Hormuz, over to you.
It was that kind of a day, right? We're expecting some kind of profit booking because it was par for the course. But then there were certain stocks that did very well. And as Nigel was highlighting, some PSU mining stocks did well. But another PSU that did very well today was Engineers India. And that stock saw its biggest single day gain in almost 8 months. And that stock ended at the highest. It is up almost 33% now since the 20th of December. It was up another 8% today. It has been up over 6% each over the last few sessions as well. And as you highlighted, Pharma did very well today. Almost all of these stocks, Lupin, GSK Pharma, Biocon was at a 3-month high, Glenmark Pharma, Gland Pharma, all of them doing very well today. Another pharma name that did very well though was Mankind Pharma. And the talking point here is that the stock has doubled now from its IPO price. The IPO price was 1,080 and it hit an intraday high of 2,164, 6.5% higher on Mankind Pharma, and that stock has doubled from its IPO price in just 8 months of its listing. Adani Ports came out with a business update towards the close of trade. The talking point here was that they have raised their full year guidance to 400 million tons now from 370 to 390 earlier. So that stock ending almost 3% higher today. What didn't do well was Vodafone Idea. Again, there were news reports floating around that they are in talks with Starlink to sell some stake. The government was in talks. The company has clarified there are no such talks taking place. The stock ending 5.5% lower today. Birla Soft, and I'm sure Nimesh will highlight more on the D Street Chatter, but that stock on the 4th day of drop today for Birla Soft, 2% lower. The stock closing below its 10 as well as its 20-day moving average. So not good signs on the charts there for Birla Soft. PSUs, they were the stars yesterday, but they came under some bit of pressure today. Some of them, LIC, BEL, REC, PSC, the stars of last year, saw a bit of profit booking as well. Petronet LNG did very well today though. The stock ending higher, and that stock has been an outperformer. It closed off the day's high slightly, but it was the 8th day of gains for the stock, and that was the longest winning streak that the stock has seen in nearly 4 years now. And lastly, Bata, another stock that did not do well on the charts, another 2.5% lower today. The stock ending trending at a 1-month low, and it has closed below its 200-day moving average today as well. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Hormuz, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's get in our guest then. We have Shrikant Chauhan, who's joining in, Executive Vice President at Kotak Securities, to help us out with the technicals, and Mayuresh Joshi, Head Equity Research at William O'Neill, joins us to help us out with the fundamentals. Hi, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining in on the show. Well, you go first, Shrikant. What do you make of today's trading session? It appears the Nifty is getting nervous, closer around the 21,850 to 22,000. Do you think we pull back a couple of percentage points and then head up? Or do you think, in fact, from here on itself, we'll be looking to buy the dips?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nigel. I think, Nifty is very clearly finding a lot of difficulties to sustain at higher levels. And the way yesterday, it has fallen from the highs of 21,850 to almost 21,675. One thing is very clear, that someone has taken serious approach of taking profit on the market. Today also it failed to sustain around those levels. So we are of the view that based on technicals, 21,850 is now going to act as major resistance for the market. Until the markets are not crossing these levels, we are going to see some downside in the market. Based on the overall statistics and the formation of averages and patterns, I think 21,400 is the level where the market should find support. Also there, the market is having support of 20 days simple moving average. So based on the combination of extensions, retracements, and option statistics, I think 21,400 is the level where we should look for adding some long positions. And in case if we see any rebound in the near term, then close to 21,700, 750, we should look for reducing some positions. Unless and until the market is not crossing 21,850, I think the market is going to remain in a range with a downward bias.
Okay, all right. Mayuresh Joshi is also joining in. So let's get him into the discussion. He's the Head Equity Research at William O'Neill. Mayuresh, hi, welcome to the show. The stock of the day has been Lemon Tree Hotels, but is it too late to get in if someone has missed out on this bus?
Afternoon, Sonia. Yes, I think the stock has done a little bit too much. And with the expectations in terms of the occupancy rates heading northwards from 70% that they reported in the quarter gone by, the expectations in terms of the latest property that has come up in Mumbai with 669 odd rooms, the occupancy should start inching higher for that property, which probably means that as you head into 25 and 26, the occupancy rates will be in excess of 75 odd percent. What this does to ARRs, which had probably languished around that 5,200, 5,300 P mark, should start showing some meaningful expansion in Q3, which is the best of the holiday season. And the better part is more rooms and capacities get added. The margins obviously had taken a hit, Sonia, because of renovation costs, which the management still believes around 100 crores expected in the coming financial year, as well as the new properties where the occupancy is expected to grow up gradually. But largely, I think a large part of the move has been penciled in. Can the momentum sustain further based on all these tailwinds that come through? Probably yes. But for a fresh investor, my own take is, and as we look at it at Markets with India, I think declines is the way to look at Lemon Tree, at least at this time.
Okay, all right. Stay with us, gentlemen. Pharma, well, that was a sector that was buzzing today on the back of earnings recovery in the past 6 months. The Nifty Pharma Index hit a record high. Lupin rallied on bullish commentary coming in from Nomura. Alkem Labs also jumped up after receiving an approval coming in from the US FDA for 5 drugs. Ekta joins us to give us all the insights on the pharma space. Ekta.
Well, yes, I'll start with Alembic, which was in focus because the company did provide an update on the various tentative and final approvals that they got for their drugs during Q3 of FY24. So the company got final US FDA approval for 5 drugs and tentative approval for 3 drugs. Now, separately, Lupin was in focus because Nomura has a buy call. They've raised their target price to 15.93 versus 12.90. According to them, the margins are likely to improve over the next 3 to 4 years with US launches, growth in India, EM, as well as in the European markets. Now, overall, the pharma stocks are seeing traction because of factors, according to analysts, such as a margin uptake in the past 2 quarters as input prices have softened, and they expect this kind of an uptake to sustain. Price pressure has reduced to around 5 to 6% versus a peak of 10 to 12%. And companies such as Cipla, Dr. Reddy's, Natco, Sun, Zydus, all of them are benefiting from Revlimid generic, the cancer drug. Their sales till Jan 2026 when it goes becomes much more generic than it already is. The EV to EBITDA, however, just watch out for that, because that's at around 25 times on an FY23 basis versus a historical 10-year average of around 18 times. Now, separately, lastly, maybe just a sentiment mover, but the US FTA India head will now be transitioning out of their position and joining the China office. So that's just another additional piece of news to keep in mind. Pharma sector was definitely in focus in today's trading session.
All right, Ekta, thanks a lot for that. Mayuresh Joshi is back with us. Mayuresh, from the pharma space, any stock that you still like where, you see considerable capital appreciation in 2024?
Yeah, so I think one of the names within the broader market, Sonia, would be Torrent Pharma. Now, a large part of the branded generic segment, which accounts almost for 75% of their top line, is expected to continue doing well. As Ekta pointed out, the branded generic space is where the pricing will still sustain with players like Torrent. And they are into regulated markets where their products are expected to do well. And an example is their anti-diabetic medicine, which they have launched very recently. That can probably do very well in the coming few quarters as well. The second element, obviously, is with pricing in their favor, margins should sustain between 31 and 32 odd %. ROEs are extremely strong. We've got a benchmark of 80% ROEs at O'Neill, and the ROEs that they probably report in excess of 20 odd %, which means if you probably look at forward numbers on an FY25, even an FY26 perspective, there is still reasonable amount of EPS growth that this stock can probably deliver, assuming all the tailwinds that it has. So Torrent is something that one can look at on pullbacks. Sun, Lupin is something that we continue holding into our global portfolios.
Okay, all right, got that. Well, let's focus on the stock of the day. That's AB Fashion. It rallied close to around 8% today. It's been actually an underperformer. Today it came back in style. Mangalam joins us to tell us why the stock was on fire today. Mangalam, tell us what excited the street today?
Well, a couple of things excited ABFRL in today's trading session. Yes, the stock was up around 8-9% in today's trading session. The important part was it was up at huge volumes as well, nearly 6 to 7 times 10-day average on that. But it's been a rank underperformer in 2023. The stock, at a time when the mid-cap and the small-cap indices rose anywhere between 45 to 55% last year, and peers rallying almost 80 to 90%, we had ABFRL, which was down 24% in 2023. The second quarter results were also weak on account of the festive season shift. Now the street is hoping that the third quarter results will be good, largely because of one, festive season, secondly, because of the company's own expansion and foray in the ethnic fashion itself. The debt on their books is close to 4,350 odd crores, but the important trigger for them in January 2024 would be in May 2022, the company allotted warrants worth nearly 1,425 crores to GIC, who had then invested around 770 crores via preferential issue as well. These warrants, which were allotted to GIC, are now convertible 18 months later in Jan 2024 at 289 rupees per share, roughly 289 rupees per share. So once the money comes in at a much higher price, there would be balance sheet bolstering as well that will take place. And at the same time, the street is looking at better fundamentals for the third quarter.
All right, Mangalam, you're also tracking VST Industries. Tell us about that.
Well, for VST Industries, there was a huge block trade that took place on the counter. If you just take a look at the intraday chart of the stock, it was flat until 12 p.m. and then there was that 4% equity that changed hands at around 3,390 odd rupees on the Bombay Stock Exchange. Will be important to know who the participants of that large trade were, largely because immediately after the large trade, the stock went higher and was locked into the upper circuit itself. Now, this is a cigarette company that manufactures and sells cigarettes under the brands Charms, Charminar, as well as Wazir, etc. But over the last many quarters, they've been losing market share to the larger player ITC. And as a result of which, the valuation gap between ITC and VST Industries has also narrowed. In the tobacco space, Godfrey trades at around 12 times, VST trades at around 15 times, and ITC trades at 26 times itself. So fundamentally, any improvement in market share is something that the street is eyeing. Importantly, there is an influential investor in the company. As of the last shareholding pattern, Radhakishan Damani and his investment companies hold about 32% stake in the company. So to that extent, will be extremely crucial to watch out for who the participants in that last trade are.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's get back to our conversation with Shrikant Chauhan and Mayuresh Joshi. Mayuresh, I wanted your thoughts on a couple of stocks that will be in focus as we head into the next fortnight, which is, names like Infosys, TCS, coming out with their numbers on 11th Jan. On 12th, you have names like Wipro, HCL Tech, etc. So it's going to be earnings heavy in the tech space. What would your pick of the pack be here?
So, Sonia, large caps have underperformed to a large part to their mid-cap counterparts. And to a large extent, what can probably go wrong might be order cancellations like we've seen in the case of Infosys right in the recent past right now. Again, I think the revenue growth, both in dollar and constant currency terms, is something like the street would ideally like to watch out for. Obviously, Q3, because of furloughs and Christmas holidays, is typically a weak quarter. But management commentaries surrounding both pricing, order wins, and the expectations of revenue growth is going to be extremely crucial. Obviously, from a valuation perspective, Infosys is trading at some optimum valuations compared to its own averages and the larger IT sector as a whole. But largely, the street would like to watch out for numbers that come through and commentaries thereof. And therefore, selectively, mid-cap IT might still continue their outperformance, both in terms of order wins, in terms of no pricing pressures indicated by most management's expectations of stable EBIT margins, and order flows within that 1, 5, and 10 million bucket expected to still flow in, considering a softer US market and an improving European market as well. So I think stocks like an FSL, Perso Solutions, Cyient is something that we continue liking within the mid-cap space. In the large-cap names, HCL Tech and Infosys is something that we'll definitely watch out for, but we'll definitely wait out for results, Sonia, and the management commentary there.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Srikanth, as well as Mayuresh, for joining us on the show. Well, let's shift focus on some important commentary then we got from the auto space. Maruthi's Executive Director, Shashank Srivastava, expects single-digit growth in total volumes for 2024 for the industry. He added that their market share was 41.6% in 2023, and the market share in the SUV segment in 2023 doubled to 20%. From the EV space, the electric bus maker Olectra Greentech tells CNBC-TV18 that they have an order book of over 9,000 buses currently. Their CMD, Mr. Pradeep, also lowered the guidance to 700 buses delivered for the current fiscal, that's FY24. That compares with 1,000 that they guided for earlier. However, they added that they're far more optimistic on the prospects for FY25 when they expect to deliver 2,500 buses.
Okay, with that, it is a short time for a short break, but we'll get you our popular segment, D Street Chatter, along with some top market events to watch out for on the other side. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Markets Forward on CNBC-TV18. It's time now for our segment D Street Chatter. Nimesh will get us an insight into all the buzz in the dealing rooms. Nimesh, today was a bit of a consolidation, but what are the dealers saying?
Yes, absolutely. A choppy day, but a sharper recovery in the broader market. That sums up today's market. In terms of individual names, the first stock is SHKLK. Big move in that stock and in large volumes as well. There is a large block, 60 lakh shares, and after that, the stock rallied as well. I understand some large HN investors are buying in today's block, so disclosures could be important there. The second name is Satin Credit. Again, for a part of the mid-cap basket, did very well today and on good volumes. The street is anticipating some fundraising in that company very soon. So that's the reason why that stock was buzzing. The third name is Birla Soft. For second day running, some bit of delivery-based selling in that stock. I understand a domestic mutual fund is a seller. So expect high delivery volumes, and on high delivery volumes, that stock was under pressure today. And the last name is Z and Bandhan Bank. Both for the last couple of days are seeing a delivery-based buying. I understand a leading Wealth Fund is an active buyer in those two names. So those are buzzing largely on the back of FI buying and both Bandhan as well as the entertainment.
Okay, thanks for that, Nimesh. And before we wrap up, we bring you some key market events to watch out for. Mangalam is standing by to tell us exactly that. Mangalam.
Well, as far as the key market events are concerned for tomorrow, just watch out for a bunch of stocks. We have Dhampur Sugar. Remember, the stock was buzzing around in yesterday's trading session. The board meet is tomorrow to consider a buyback, so details out there will be crucial. Indostar Finance is the other one that I'm watching out for. They have their investor day tomorrow. PTC Industries also will consider a fundraise, so the board meeting out there would be important. And then we have, likely Q3 updates, which will be expected from the likes of IndusInd Bank and HDFC Bank. Remember, a couple of days into the new quarter, we get these updates. Bharat Forge will also be in focus because, again, a couple of days into the new month, we get the North America Class 8 truck sales orders as well. And finally, in terms of macro data, do watch out for the India manufacturing PMI, important after the data that came in from China.
All right, thanks a lot for that. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. Stay tuned, lots more market action coming up.